EvE is known for its harshness, its perceptive cruelty, for its grudges, its wars that can run for years, scamming, griefing, you name it. But for 3 days in spring, we are one big family. When we meet in EveE's birthplace, its cultural and historical home, Iceland. Because then, it's EvE Fanfest. For me, the best time of the year. Coming from a rural area in Switzerland, where card playing, shooting sports, cars, wide-range topics, football, ice hockey rule the day. Being a nerd, playing video games is viewed as rubbish or childish. I so wished I could be more around my kind. And being an EvE nerd is even harder. Where words like hot dropping, scram, point, supers, titans are non-existent. It can get lonely. But for a week in spring, in a city called Reykjavik, I'm in heaven. I'm with my kind, joking, laughing, sharing a common love, EvE. Because it's Fanfest time. For many, the trip feels like a pilgrimage. This year was my third trip, and I don't regret any moment in that cold and cloudy city. Stepping on the Iceland airplane in Zurich even feels relaxing, like a cleansing. I leave my sorrows, worries, bills and problems at home. Because I know 4 hours later I land in Iceland, with hundreds of EvE players there. My kind. For me, and I dare say all EvE players, Iceland and Fanfest is like Graceland, Monte Carlo, Burning Man. It runs deep, the yearning of being back among like-minded people. Being in your spiritual home. Walking through Reykjavik, this city founded around 872 CE, with structures even a bit older. One coming here for the first time maybe has a smile on his face. The prices are in ISK, and the puzzled looks from locals when you say ISK. Walking down Lovager Street into downtown, you get more small hints. Reykjavik is aware of us. Yes, Fanfest isn't the only GameCon, BlizzCon, Wargaming Fest and many more. But in Reykjavik, many people know it's on. Taxi drivers, hotel staff, shops. The city knows the nerds are in here. And so far as I noticed, they like us. We are welcomed. Like a breeze of fresh air, I would say. We are strange, funny, nice. Yes, nice. We bring the glasses back. Bouncer have no worries when you are in town. This year I brought my camera with me and tried to capture a small glimpse on Fanfest 2017. Not polished or on any pro level refined, just my view. Yes, you can watch stuff on stream and later YouTube. But you don't get the heated roundtable discussions, the atmosphere in the Harpa, the pub crawl or charity dinner, the big party. For me, and I hope many, many more, the Harpa is a symbol for 3 days of joy, of being with family. Sure, we disagree on viewpoints, but we, who are here, truly love EvE. It's a time players meet their in-game friends, eat, drink, more drinking with them. Mercenary Coalition, PL, Goons, Boss, all have their dinners and parties. And I think unique to EvE Fanfest, CCP drinks with us. I doubt at BlizzCon you find their devs mingling with players like that. I doubt Viktor Kislev, Wargaming CEO, mingles with players. Hilmar, CCP CEO, does. CCP Seagull is there, devs, GMs. We all celebrate EvE. On the second day, I was doing the tourist stuff, before Eve's Tweet Fleet meetup. It was Wednesday. I tried to find Reykjavik's Nerd Heaven. Turns out it opens at 11:30. Crap. Off to the Pelham then, and the tourist tour. I had a close and personal meeting with Iceland, meaning I tripped and rolled quite ungracefully along the pavement. But all was well. Reached the National Museum, this time looking with a hungry eye at the Viking stuff for a new reenactment idea. And Then, after a long walk and day, I found Nerd Heaven, 40k, comics, games, lab. What a wonderful place the Nexus store is. Before the actual FanFest, we had the Tweet Fleet meetup. Well, there was the pre-meet warm-up at Nora's before that. Tweet Fleet meet is fun, beer, karaoke, chatting. Not way too loud for me. So I went downstairs and outside. Got the chance to meet people I got to know from earlier FanFests. And meet awesome new people. I met Random McNally and Mrs. McNally. An awesome couple. At one point, a lady looked at me and said, "You have an interesting voice." Me? For the self? What the She then, "You want to do some stuff for us?" My internal sarcasm attention yellow alert went off, suspecting some kind of scam. We talk about EvE players here after all. But no, she lifted my confusion, just to get me even more wrong-footed. The lady was NC, Zendane's wife, and he is the EvE podcast reader. Wow, so it was an offer to do some voice stuff. Watch the closing ceremony. At one point, CCP Guard talks about a story of a guy that was recruited into a corp by a Nightcrawler 85. That was that couple. A wonderful story. Many such wonderful player stories happening at FanFest. What is FanFest actually? CCP describes FanFest as following. What do I think FanFest is? Well, one thing's for sure. It's not a single event. This year we had a LARP event, which I completely ignored. I had a tight timetable at the first day. I enjoyed dipping in and out of the smoking tent and the conversations there, or bumping into interesting people. Somehow I keep bumping into manic velocity all the time. This year the official part was really late, because CCP wanted a better access for the US time zone viewers. Well, thanks. Sitting in tranquility, Harper's conference rooms and stages were renamed EVE-themed, probably nobody could utter the Icelandic names. Knowing a lot of first-timers were here, I remembered my first FanFest in 2015. Knowing no one then, never before in Iceland, never on any kind of GameCom beforehand, so not knowing what to expect back then. I didn't know what a loud crowd we could be in the main room. As then the Valkyrie trailer ran, my first EVE trailer-ish live presentation. You don't get that on stream or YouTube. When the Amarian fleet landed, the room erupted in "Ama Victor! Ama Victor!" shouts. An amazing experience. So watching Hilma, Manic, Guard, Siegel and others do their thing, the first 2.5 hours were over. For me, I needed to change into my cosplay project. EVE-style dress uniform for the charity dinner. At least this year, I wasn't late. Yes, I was. All were already there. One day. 2016 was my first charity dinner event. Knowing nothing about etiquette as such dinners. Well, I don't like suits, or fit in one I have. I stepped into the loony side and made a dress uniform. Feeling more comfy in a uniform rather a suit. Yes, $200 is a hefty price tag, but worth it. You have children, and meet players and devs in a relaxed atmosphere. To my surprise, I placed myself between two lovely ladies. To my left, Looney, and my right, CCP Mimic. Oh joy! Also, CCP Fuzzy was with us, as always full of energy. I apologize for all the talking I did, but someone needs to talk at a dinner. It was a nice conversations, all around our table. Many different topics were discussed. Game, real life, awesome stuff for me. As you may know, or not know, the food is impressive, but not in quantity. Speaking as a blue-collar worker here, you don't get really satisfied. About mid-event, Fuzzy left our table and, surprise number 2, CCP Seagull joined us. Every tamer has at least 2 devs at it, and in the second half, some switched tables. we got CCP Seagull, executive producer of EvE Online. I don't know from where she gets the energy, but one could sense her joy of being with players, smiling, asking stuff, more switching. Somehow CCP Guard joined us. Brennivin, the Icelandic spirit, was served. Well, it tasted more like turpentine, I guess. Laughs, jokes, stories, ideas, a wonderful evening. Other player groups have their dinners and parties at that date also. All over Reykjavik, players partied. The most wonderful thing about EvE, the one server. We had one German, me Swiss, two Swedes, and I think a British or Canadian couple at our table. At Fanfest, all kinds of national languages or regional dialects get spoken. You could find yourself talking with Dutch, Canadians, Russian players, but you felt a common voice, EvE, that we all share. All kinds of real-life backgrounds, workers, doctors, teachers, rocket scientists, mid-level management, moms, dads, truckers, soldiers, emergency responders. Such a wonderful mix and views and ideas. And the atmosphere. You bump into someone and both say, "Oh, sorry mate." Even drunk, many behaved correct. Returning around 1 o'clock to my hotel, I spent another hour talking to the hotel night staff about EvE. I guess many had similar encounters with locals. Watching them listening to what is just a brush on EvE. Getting more and more confused and amazed is an interesting sight. Finally, 2:30, bed. Oh, and I had no real internet in my room. Wi-Fi was dodgy at best.
Online. Thank you.
Yes!
Of the capsuleer kind, where four great empires see the fractured renaissance of man. Wielding vast force, they carve their ideologies into the stars. The heroism and treachery of capsuleers is woven into the fabric of New Eden. A story of industry, exploration, and conquest. However you choose to forge your destiny, do so with heart. This is where your legend begins.
What is Fanfest? Be an active part in EVE's evolution. Some CCP presentation openings are getting more interesting with every year, and painful, and I hope they don't scale exponentially. CCP Ghost. Last year he introduced himself with an X-ray of his brain. This year with an X-ray of his two broken arms. Ouch! But from those images an interesting story evolves. Watching, listening to CCP Ghost as he explains in normal words, behavior and learning experiences is fascinating in itself. CCP Ghost, together with Team Genesis, is responsible for the new player experience. His presentations are informative and interesting to follow, as its contents translate to your daily life too. So you can take more away from it than just for internet spaceships. The new player experience roundtable is always a heated event. Many of the nullsec groups are there, and you can clearly feel the pullings of new bros into nullsec PvP. What is also Fanfest? Join real science presentations. Overviewing the timetable of events before my first Fanfest, I was amazed. Seeing a real science presentation from a planetologist. This year, a real whopper, a presentation on the search for exoplanets by none other than the man with his team who discovered the first exoplanet, Pegasi 51a, or as it's now known as the Medium, and its star Helvetios, by Professor Michel Maillot. For me, it's a real privilege to listen to scientists of this caliber. It's not easy, from my background, to get into public lectures. They are too far away, or expensive, or sold out. But here at Fanfest, for a space video game, I sit in a lecture presentation from a professor, and I can follow what he explains. It's thrilling, fascinating, mind-boggling. I like it. I adore it. And it's not without reason he's here. The next project Discovery, the gaming game, where we get to do real science stuff. It's the hunt for exoplanets. When I saw the announcement on it, I was shouting for joy. Real space stuff. I so waited to do this. I dreamed of doing this. This is where my heart is. Space. Yes, I'm a space nerd. So I sit there in Professor Mayo's lecture, trying to follow this legend when he explains the method. Basically, they tried to find a light dimming pattern of the star's brightness. It sounds really simple, but it isn't. Thank you, CCP, to get these people, to let them speak, to explain, to lecture, to expand a normal man's horizon. Thank you. And we still had the round table. CCP Burger, having small crisis number 2369 that day as it seemed, because we have lost a professor. I took the chance and asked 2 questions. How Professor Mayo and Geneva University took the idea of gamers doing science stuff. To my surprise, they thought it was a brilliant idea. The second one, how did he feel when the peer reviewer confirmed his and his team's discovery? When I asked it, I watched Professor Mayo and saw him smile. But his answer was, it wasn't a snappy eureka moment, but a long wait and process. What Fanfest also is, about making choices. There's not one timetable, but you decide what you want to listen, or not. Like in EvE, you need to do a choice. Do I want to listen to the art presentation, or the presentation by a player about wormhole life? Or do I want to go to the PvP room and fly the ground attack map of EvE, or go for a smoke and a chat, or a hot dog? You decide. Wait, there is more. What Fanfest could be. Players present. Here we see the discourse crew doing a presentation on how to do a thing, like a player-made scope-style news show. Player presentations are made by CCP or scripted, all done through player initiative and idea. This is just one presentation. Offers range from EvE in martial arts, over wormhole life, EvE Valkyrie, and more. You choose your flavor and your slot. Let's listen a bit to the discourse guys.
We might have a suggestion there. Let's see what it is. Oh, sorry.
You might want to cure them and to post the burning heart.
Well, we could.
Something we're going to mix the two together.
Yeah, we should. Okay, all right. Let's have the round of applause. Let's give a round of applause with here and cheering and.
That's actually plenty.
Yeah. We can have applause and cheer. Approving sounds. Ready to approve? Okay. Go. 3, 2.
So, there is one presenter I need to especially mention. The strange, funny, awesome cool story of Max Singularity. Max is an EvE player, cosplayer, EvE's resident space pope, and works for NASA's GPL in Pasadena. So he's really smart, and funny, and a wonderful human being. Last year he did a wonderful presentation on what NASA is doing then. It was informative and really funny, because Max is a huge nerd. Nerd jokes all around. This year he did a scientific style presentation on how our ships work. So Max came up with EvE Physics, explaining how warp works, why our game feels more like a fluid universe. It's not just warp drive propels you into subspace, but how and why ships behave like they behave. The room was full of people, all hanging on Mac's lips, laughing at his jokes, which were many. Just imagine listening to an advanced physics class at the Capsuleer School or Navy Academy. So, our ships need 6 packs, not 5 or 4, but 6 packs. Power enhanced generators to move. And they are so simple in design. He took time figuring out, based on lore and game mechanic, how it works in physical terms. Just wow. GG Max 07. His explanation will be in CCP's new book Frigates of EvE by Dark Horse Comics. I can't wait to get it. Thanks to Fanfest and EvE, I got to know this awesome human being. With a heart out of Amarian gold. Always fly safe, Max. And this is what Fanfest is about. Meeting players who share the same interest and make friends.
By the way, these are black and white. There are black energy and there's light energy that you are seeing. And you will see this through. When you go through a warp tunnel, that is 1x energy tendril. But when you go through a jump, you're deeper, and you actually see 3 times because you're closer to subspace. So you see even brighter energy tendrils as you travel through space. So, that's enough of the physics of that. Let's talk about your...
And there is still more to see what Fanfest could be. Party on top of the world. On Friday, there is the legendary pub crawl. Basically, you pay $60 and get 4 free beer tickets. And choose a group with CCP staff and devs in it. And head out into Reykjavik and party until you drop. So naturally, many more joining. But this year, first we got cake. A lot. Really. A lot of it. 20 meters for 20 years of CCP.
I'm going to need a little bit of help here, actually, because we've got a bit of a special occasion tonight. We have a wonderful gentleman by the name of CCP Control, and this is actually his last Fanfest book call with us. So, I'm going to need a little bit of help, a little bit of a chant, so we've got to get it going. So let me hear. Gun show! 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 Alright guys, gun show! 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 Come on, the legend! Gun show! CCP Tyrant and CCP Tiny.
So, you can guess with such a start to pub crawl how it goes. After we got sorted, kind of, got free beer, and after many minutes, we set off into Reykjavik on a Friday night. The first pub was actually more of a restaurant, with actual people in it, non-EvE players. So the looks of the normal guests was amusing to watch. 20 plus EvE players hot dropped into a quite nice restaurant. It reminded me of when I was in the Air Force, and in our annual repetition courses, stormed the local bars, pubs in the towns we were stationed. We got beer, sat down, at what space we got, and chatted about EvE, real life, whatever. So after about 30 minutes, we left, tried the next, already full. So, free beer handed out, and talked on the street. We were a real mix of all EvE regions in there. My personal highlight for me was chatting all night with Toxic Yeken, a pirate ganker, so naturally kind of my in-game enemy. But here, a friend. Glad I met him. We exchanged views, ideas, and surprisingly, we aligned quite well. Like civilized people, we discussed the finer points. Oh, we will shoot each other every time we meet in EvE. But then probably still chat and send good fights after it.
Cargo hold packed with big fat lyrical bombs. I'm the captain of the best ship in the universe. It was built by my space friends around the world. The friendship takes me where I need to go. It can fly super fast or bounce really slow. It's got a lot of room for my homies in the back. It's a fact I can dance all alone to this track. That's why we fly around the galaxy. X up for the fleet if you wanna party.
Setting course for the club, paging the pleasure hub. Like it or not, we're about to drop hot. When I say 4, you walk to the dance floor. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Walk to the dance floor. Put your motherfucking hands in the air like this and walk to the dance floor. Jump around all night with your space friends. Walk to the dance floor. Carry on all night, pleasure hub is alright. Walk to the dance floor. Jump up for the pyramid.
Our flagship is the friendship. Get your feet on the floor and defend it.
Show up, gun cock, target lock, take the shot, never hesitate, never give a second thought. Ship up, capsuleer, comes clear, no fear. Come grab a beer, all your best friends are here. Even that alpha comet quit last year. Good lord, we don't know where we go after show. Stick with the fleet, go with the flow. Try to keep up to the best of your ability until we all collapse like a wave of probability. To the dance floor, put your motherfucking hands in the air like this and walk to the dance floor. Jump around all night with your space friends. Walk to the dance floor. Carry on
So like all good times, Fanfest ends too, at Saturday. The closing ceremony is the last thing on the agenda. There is more going on than I covered. CCP does an all Fanfest long live 07 show on Twitch with interviews. Shout out to the guys of EvE TV. Because EvE gets played beyond the client, a lot of shadow plays are happening. Alliance leaders are here, and beer, and time. Stuff happens. Spies get recruited, allegiances may switch. This is also Fanfest. It is viewed as neutral ground, but EvE still gets played, even literally. In 2015 I saw a guy at the party who played EvE on his laptop. At the closing ceremony we looked back at 3 days of joy, looking forward, on player gatherings all around the globe. And the RP event gets its final decision. Hope for all. Fanfest had a lore theme this year. Capsuleers gathered in-game at the Keepstar Citadel, the biggest in-game item we can build. The theme of this event was the outbreak of the fatal Kyanoke plague. We Capsuleers and other top researchers from all over the cluster gathered at the H4 RP4 Keepstar in Post-Tubunim system, Solitude region, Galente Federation. And it was built right next to an infected station. What could possibly go wrong? To find a cure, which we did, gladly. I was all for burning stuff down. Who would have guessed the Capsuleers care for mortals? Here is the in-game view of it. But one more item was on the list. The big party on top of the world, with a special guest DJ, none other than Christian Nairn, aka Hodor, for Game of Thrones. Also, CCP's in-house band, Permaband, rocks the harpa with beloved EvE songs and cover tunes. Bring on the wrecking machine!
to take me down. Victory's mighty step. Got my best fit on, we're gonna have some fun tonight. Are you ready for a
On Sunday, a small band of EvE players gathered at the EvE Monument, right next to CCP HQ in the Old Harbor. It was built for EvE's 10-year anniversary in 2013. All players who had active accounts got their toon names on it. There are tens of thousands of names on it. It's called Worlds Within Worlds. We gathered here on a chilly, windy Sunday morning to remember the EvE players who have left us, some through accidents, illness, suicide, some even through terror attacks. We are a small online community compared to other MMOs, but we are tight and caring one. We donated thousands of dollars, pounds, euros for players who need help, families who have an EvE player passed away. We lose too many players to suicide. There is an in-game community called Podcast for Reps, for those who need an ear when their life is darkest. Our Space Pope, Max Singularity, yes, the one who did the physics of EvE, did a small remembrance ceremony. Damn volcanic ash in your eyes. We lit 2 candles, for the ones we lost last year we knew, and for the ones we didn't know we lost. Every time we get to know an EvE player died, a candle gets lit at the monument. It's an Icelandic player, his name, Bensman, who does it. He's just started it, just out of sense of duty. 07 to you, Bensman. So there we stand, remembering our lost space bros and sisters. Fly safe. As the plane lands in Zurich, my Fanfest ended. Looking back, I still cannot explain what Fanfest is. It's like EvE. It's A, but B, and C, going to M, N, then. It's not like Comic-Con, where lots of stuff happens, but from all over the nerd spectrum. It's more than a meetup. It's like a congress, exchanging ideas. It's a party. I think the best way to explain EvE Fanfest is with a picture. Me and Toxic Yakin. The friendship made manifest. So, from wherever you are, fly safe or reckless. Hope to see you in 2018 for 15 years of EvE.